I'm Dick Moberg, and welcome to our interview series. A lot of interesting people pass through our doors who are doing amazing work in brain monitoring. We bring them into our studio, put a mic on them, and get the personal stories you don't normally hear. We hope you enjoy them. Hi, I'm Dick Moberg, and my guest today is Jana Kainerstorfer from Carnegie Mellon University. She's an associate professor in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, and we're so happy to have you here. I met Jana last year at the Neurocritical Care Society meeting and was blown away with a presentation she gave on non-invasive brain monitoring, on trying to measure ICP using diffuse correlation spectroscopy.
That's correct.
Cool, good. And I have to say that there's people you meet occasionally in your life where you start talking to them, and one after another, these connections arise between their life and your life. And I know a whole lot of people that she knows, and she knows a whole lot of people I know, but we didn't know each other. And it's one of those things that just happened today in our discussion. So anyway, wonderful. And one of those connections was the fact that one of the first times I fell in love was in Vienna, Austria, and then I find out she's from Austria and from Vienna. And I have some amazing memories of Vienna, and we spent some time today talking about wandering around Vienna. And you probably haven't been to my favorite bar there in Vienna, but maybe you have.
Maybe. It's been a few years.
Cool. So, let's start there. What I want to do is just talk about how did you get from Vienna to where you are now? And so tell us the story.
Oh, it's all an accident. No, but I was studying physics. I was an undergrad at the University of Vienna. And I was studying faster than I needed to. I took all my exams earlier. I could have graduated a semester early. And I decided I wanted to just get out and go overseas, and I applied for exchange programs and thought that the university would send me to Australia so I could go scuba diving and take courses. And they sent me to the US, to Georgetown, and I spent a semester in Washington, D.C. in the fall semester, no scuba diving there. But I worked in an fMRI lab, and kind of the rest is history. 18 years later, I'm still here.
Oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how'd you get to Carnegie Mellon?
So after college, entered a PhD program officially in Austria, but did all the research at NIH and really started biomedical research there, did a postdoc in Boston, and then applied for faculty positions all over the country. And I don't know, there was something about Carnegie Mellon. They invited me, but there was something about Carnegie Mellon that just made me smile. It's just such an incredible environment, very collaborative, and I just really like the university.
That's great. So as an engineer, and growing up as an engineer, Carnegie Mellon is one of those, even for us, it's kind of a magical place. I mean, it's so well known for breakthrough technology and all that. So you landed in a great place. And so that's really cool. So the other thing I want to talk about is, in multimodal neuromonitoring, people usually associate NIRS with a little patch you put on the forehead and with just brain oxygen. All right, so instead of doing an invasive parenchymal probe, you put this patch on and get brain oxygen. And in the history of brain monitoring, it's had a little bit of a controversial past. People, when these first products came out, were putting the patches on pumpkins. In fact, a guy from Graz, Austria, published that paper, and he was getting oxygen from a pumpkin. And so it's had a bit of a storied past. But I think it's well used in a lot of areas, but what you're doing is really going a step further. And from what I understand, you're able to look at the microvasculature, and to me, that's kind of where the action is. And do you want to talk about that a little more?
Yeah. So NIRS, or the field of diffuse optics, is many decades old. Really, the founder of the entire field was Britton Chance.
We were talking about earlier, who I worked for right out of school. So
exactly.
Another connection.
the ideas are relatively old, and sometimes, especially with undergrads, I like to describe NIRS and brain monitoring as saying, well, it's a fancy pulse oximeter for the brain. And I love the fact that NIRS methods have been translated to the clinic, and the patch that you're talking about is used all over. But on the engineering side, there have been so many advances, especially in the last several years, about making instruments much more sensitive to the brain, enabling us to do high-resolution imaging, high-temporal resolution imaging. There is such a wealth in the signals and in the instruments that have come out over the last several years. There's such a wealth of information in those instruments that are currently not really available in a clinical setting. So the instruments that I'm used to is NIRS 2.0 or even newer than that.
Yeah.
And so the power that I'm seeing is with this engineering that has happened over the last several years and the development of what I'm hoping for is that all of those methods that we have available in the research world are going to be translated into the clinic for actual clinical use on a daily basis soon.
Yeah, and I remember visiting my friend Dan Licht at CHOP here in Philadelphia in the early days, and he would show me, an instrument about the size of a small refrigerator. And so that's kind of where my knowledge of this field stopped. And I'm thinking, how are you going to get that in this? And when I saw some of your slides earlier today, you've come a long way, or the field has, and it's amazing if we can get that kind of technology into the clinic.
Yes, I think it will happen. I'm trying myself. I know many of my colleagues are doing that as well. And the refrigerator-sized instruments nowadays become portable, wearable, battery-driven. So it's exciting. I'm really excited to see the advances over the next several years as well.
Yeah, and I think they're going to help. They're going to help all of us. We're working on this, non-invasive sensor project for the Army, and this would be cool if we could do that. So you run a lab at Carnegie Mellon, and what does the lab focus on? Is it all of this, or are there? You seem to be involved in a lot of different things. You're kind of like me, where every day it's a different project. I hope you're not like me, but I hope you're more focused. Yeah.
So my background is optical imaging. So from the technology perspective, I use optical instruments to study perfusion changes in tissue. But the way I would like to describe it is I'm very much interested in the brain, not exclusively, but very much interested in the brain, and in particular trying to understand cardiovascular and systemic influences on brain function. It's very broad, but it essentially means we build optical imaging devices with some of the emphasis is trying to understand how does blood pressure, heart rate, respiration and intracranial pressure change cerebral perfusion. But then part of that, as you know, that came out is that we developed this non-invasive intracranial pressure sensor based on cerebral hemodynamics. So that's one theme sort of the lab. But then we're trying to also push technology to look at brain function in extreme environments. So that means human free divers or going into the animal world and trying to see, can we do brain imaging in dolphins? As we talked earlier, I would love to also do brain imaging in astronauts and in space. And so there are many different applications. I think we have really cool tools that we're trying to apply to many different either diseases or extreme environments.
That's fascinating. Yeah, and I saw some of those slides. Really amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool. And since you're from Austria, what about brain imaging of snowboarders?
Well, I just came back from Colorado from a skiing trip.
No way. I'm jealous.
And it was incredible, and I was very much annoyed by the fact that the only thing I brought with me was a pulse oximeter because I was in such high altitude and my oxygenation was really low, so just SpO2, and I didn't even bring a fancy pulse oximeter
Oh
with
my
me.
God, you should next time. Where were
I
you
am.
in Colorado?
In Breckenridge.
Breckenridge. It's a cool place. Right?
It's very cool.
Nice, nice. Oh, now I want to get out there.
Right?
or go back to Austria. I've snowboarded in Innsbruck. That's a cool
Oh,
place.
nice.
But, really nice. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we talked about some collaboration potential, so I hope we'll see you back here.
Oh, I hope so. I
Philly.
would love to work with you.
I mean, you're just in Pittsburgh. We're kind of rivals, but that's okay, right? Well, you're invited anytime to come back, and I hope
Thank
we'll
you.
see you. Thank you very much for your time and talking to me today. Cool.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Bye. Cool.
It's funny because I was also about to say, we are not rivals. You're not Cleveland.